Welcome to the Creative Finance Playbook podcast. I am your host, Joe Delafave, and today I'm going to answer a question that I've been asked so many times in my career. And how did I get started in real estate investing? And why did I even get into real estate altogether? And I got to tell you, it wasn't anything that I had planned. It wasn't a master plan of mine that I'm going to be this real estate mogul one day or investor. That wasn't even like on my radar. So I dialed back to it was the year 2000. So this is a long time ago. And I was hanging out at one of my friends' house. A group of friends were all hanging together. And my friend was actually taking a whole bunch of stuff out of his closet. I forgot what he was even looking for. And he ends up pulling out a course that he bought on a late night TV commercial. So back in the year 2000, late at night, they would start having all these like infomercials and they would sell all types of things. You'd find them on TV all of the time. All of the channels were doing it. So it was back then. He said he explained the story to us that he was up late one night with his mother and they were watching this commercial about becoming a real estate investor without using your own cash, without using a lot of credit. And so he went and borrowed mom's credit card and they were spent $300 back then is what he told me. They bought this course. It gets shipped to their house. It sits on the counter for a long time and ends up getting shuffled into his closet. Months and months and months go by, never even touches it, never opened it. So when we were hanging out, a whole bunch of us, he's taking all the stuff out of the closet. One of the things he this is one thing he handed to me, was this course. And here it is. I actually still have it. So this is from Ron the Grand, called Fast Cash with Quick Turn Real Estate: How Anyone Can Quickly Turn Single Family Houses into Cash Without Money, Credit, or Partners. Which was a great thing for me because I did not have money. I had credit, but it was bad credit. So, I didn't have any partners. And so when it said how anyone can quickly turn single family houses into cash without money, credit, or partners, I knew I had to borrow this. I knew that if I could get my hands on this, and I'm going to show you a couple things inside of this course. So guys, this means a lot to me. The course back in the year 2000 only cost $300, but the information inside of it has made me well over seven figures, well over. And it's the information inside of it that was so great. But the thing is, if you could get the information, I mean, how come he didn't make money, right? It's because I actually listened to what it said and took crazy action. So what did this course look like? I'm going to show you a few things that some of my younger listeners, you might not know what these are, but this was one of the first things I did. Was this is a VCR tape. It went in the machine back then and you would get to watch whatever video was on there. So Finding the Deals was this video, and it's talking about how to find motivated sellers. I must have watched this VCR tape because this was 2000. YouTube wasn't invented, no Zillow. Google was around, but it really wasn't that great back then. So the only way you were going to get information was watching the same thing over and over again. And the key to this was, I can't tell you how many times I'd watch the video and then I'd watch it another time and something new stuck with me that time, something that maybe I didn't hear on the first time. So listening to the same thing a few times was really beneficial to me. So this is the VCR tape, and it still works. These right here, I'll pull them out. These were the audio cassette tapes. These were, I'd put these in my car, and anywhere I would go, I would listen to them. I listened to them all the time. How to Make More Than a Living. I don't even know what this one is, because I've worn out probably from just using it so many times. This one, How to Eliminate Your Doubts and Live Your Dreams. I must have listened to this one a lot of times too. This was really great audio cassette tape. I used to leave these in my car, and anywhere I went, these would be there. Closing the Sale. You could tell I listened to this one a lot of times. It's got some use on this one. You can see some of the lettering is worn off from it. Lease Option Basics. I did listen to this one. I remember quite a bit of times. And guys, these are all dated from the Ron LeGrand or the LeGrand Group Inc. from 1998. Okay, that's when these were made. Structuring offers, pre-screening prospects. Sorry, these are a little tougher to read because of the writing off of it, but you can see what I did here, guys. I had 6 audio cassette tapes that I listened to nonstop. I had this VCR tape that I would watch all of the time when I was home. And then there was this big book, right? In the book, you can put your tapes in here, but then there was the manual, right? And here was a lot of the inner workings. How to identify war zones, right? Like it's all in here. So what I did was I listened to all of these tapes many, many times. I've read through this entire manual many times. Contract checklist, buying, and it tells you all of these little things of what to do. So the key, what I've learned at an early age, was to get the information. And so for a $300 investment that my friend made turns into, in the wrong hands, it's worthless. It's just collecting dust in a closet. In the right hands, it's producing millions of dollars. So it's not just about harnessing the knowledge. It's about learning and then putting into action. And so this is one of the things that so many people actually, we almost have it backwards as humans. We think we need to know everything about it before we get started. And 70% of what you're going to learn is by taking that action, by taking those action steps. So when I popped in these tapes and I listened to them talking about how to find these distressed properties, how to find these sellers, back then you had to get really creative, and you still do too, but it's made it a little easier because of social media. It's simple. I could talk to somebody on the opposite side of the planet and have a Zoom with them. And I was this morning. So it's never been easier now to communicate with humans than the history of humans. Okay. It's never been easier than now. But back in the year 2000 was a little tougher. So what did I do to find my very first deal? I was driving around doing what they call driving for dollars, which means is when I'm driving through neighborhoods, I'm looking for distressed properties, high grass, maybe some broken windows, boarded up windows, a whole bunch of letters taped or stuck to the door, mail piling out of the mailbox because the thing's been overflowing, junker cars that are just beat up, left looking almost semi-abandoned in the yard. A lot of these things is what I've noticed. And if I'm from upstate New York, where now in the wintertime, maybe you're not going to see high grass, but you're going to see like the driveways covered in snow and nobody's shoveled the walkways. Well, that means there's probably nobody living there, right? So a lot of times these houses were vacant. And so you could either talk to the neighbors, and I was knocking on their doors saying, hey, do you know who owns this house? Do you have any contact information? And all of these ways work. But the one thing how I got my very first deal, and this is usually very uncommon, but I did my first deal a month later. I had it under contract. This was the end of August 2000, so 24 years ago. And I had my first deal under contract the very beginning of March. I'm sorry, October. Very beginning of October. My months are a little confused. But the reason why I did that, what I did was I called the local code enforcement officers from every town in my city. So each town of the surrounding of my city all have their own code enforcement. These are people who are, their neighbors are complaining because their house is vacant, right? And the grass is growing, or all types of things. Well, code enforcement comes and they make sure this house, if it is having an issue, they're going to notify the owner, and they could even fine them. They can start, obviously they don't want the town to go downward. So when I called all of these towns, most of them just said, I can't help you. Until the one guy in the town of Henrietta, New York, so it's one of the suburbs, he mentioned to me, he's like, I do have a property that fits what you're looking for. 2 guys own it. One lives in Connecticut. One lives out in California. They were partners. They were renting this house out to some local college students. When the college students moved out, they left the place a mess. Neither one of the guys were able to come all the way back to do the repairs, so now it's just sitting there vacant and a mess. And to make it worse, people started stealing, breaking in the property, stole the gutters off of it for recycling. So when it rained, the water was pouring right into the foundation. Well, the electric was turned off. So what that meant, there was water getting to the basement, which caused mold throughout the whole house. Guys, this thing was just a downright problem. The neighbors who have beautiful houses hated this one house. One of the partners lived out in California. He owned his own business. He didn't have time to come back to upstate New York to fix this house up, and he didn't have the money. And his partner in Connecticut, well, he was there when the business was going well. Well, when the business wasn't, the Connecticut partner just disappeared and vanished. So it was a little bit of a challenge just getting everybody on the same page. But with code enforcement, he put me in touch with one of the sellers out in California, chatted with him. I asked him if he'd want to sell this house. He said, you're like my savior. I've been making this payment on this house that's been empty. My partner has disappeared, so he's not even covering half. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this property. I can't go back to New York and fix it up. So once we talked about it, we agreed on doing the deal. However, I needed his partner to sign his half of the deal. So it took a lot of legwork. So meanwhile, did I feel like quitting? Only about 100 times. Did I cry? Probably once or twice, if not more, out of frustration. Frustration that I am so close to the gold. I could almost taste it and smell it, but there was this couple small little obstacles that prevented me there. And this is where in my life, I could have, you approach that fork in the road, they call it. You could go left or you can go right. Well, if I quit on myself, I would never be here today. I just kept on going. And that's all I knew. I was broke. I didn't have any money. And when I'm looking at how much money I could potentially make on this deal, it was life-changing amount of money for me back then. So I was persistent. I was consistent. I showed up every day. I was persistent. I wasn't going to let anything stop me. I was all in. I was committed to doing this deal. I wasn't just interested in doing it. I was committed. Because when you're interested in doing something, in the very beginning, you're going to suck. You're going to stink. You're not going to be great. And if you're just trying something out, the minute that happens, you're going to most likely quit. Say, oh, yeah, see, this was too hard. But if you're committed, that means you understand in the beginning you're going to not do well. You're going to have challenges. Every little thing that's worth having is worth working for. Okay? So I was committed to getting this deal done. I was committed to finding this partner in Connecticut, states away. I didn't know if I was going to have to drive there, knock on the guy's door, because you would call his house, go right to his answering machine. So there was no cell phones really back then. There were, but nobody really had them. So eventually it worked, right? We got a hold of him. I explained to him what we're doing. He said, oh my gosh, this would be the greatest. He signed off on it to sell the house. He even had a repossession against that house. His car got repoed. And there was a big lien, which I was going to pay just for him to say goodbye to this house. And I negotiated that lien amount from $17,000 to $5,000 because the bank, they knew the situation that was going on there. So I'm doing all of these things at 22 years old that I could have never imagined. Did I have any training on it? I had these. If I had a question, I had to go back to watching another tape, listening to the tapes, watching the VCR tape, reading the book, and just staying persistent with it. So December 4th, the year 2000 was closing date. And when I got to close on that, I'll share a picture of the property, but it was the first house I ever owned. And I did what's called a double closing. I bought it, and I only owned the house for maybe half an hour at the latest. Because when I bought it, I signed all the paperwork for me to buy it. In the lobby, it's my buyer. And I'm going to be selling it to him 20 minutes later. And here I am signing the paperwork for me to sell the house. Guys, and on that deal, I have that property under contract for $25,000 is what I bought it for. And I sold it to a cash buyer for $40,000. Minutes away from each other, minutes apart. So at the end of the day, The attorney took out some closing fees and things like that. And I walked away with a check for $12,733. It took probably about a week later till the dust settled before I got my check. I didn't walk out of closing with that check. But a week later, the attorney called me after we closed the deal, and he said, I have this check. Do you want me to drop it in the mail, or do you want to come to my office and come get it? And I was like, no way am I going to have you drop that check in the mail. I want to personally drive out to that attorney's office and pick that up and hold that check. And it was the best feeling ever. It was a great feeling because all of the people who were the closest to me were some of the biggest naysayers. Some of the biggest people saying, Joe, what kind of real estate scam are you doing? You don't have any money. You don't have credit. What do you know about real estate? What are you even doing in this? Right. And my gosh, they were really convincing. Like, they had me second guessing myself. But I knew from this training that I had that I'm not the only one that was able to do this, and tons of people are doing it. So why not me? Why can't I do it too? So I had a mind shift. And when my negative family and my negative friends, today we call those people haters, but back then they were just, what are you doing? But when I did that deal and I got that check and I went to my bank and I deposited that, and my gosh, what a feeling that was. Talk about uplifting feeling, the confidence you got from that. The money was wonderful, but the proof of concept that this worked and I did it, and I helped two sellers out, and I helped a buyer. Like, oh my gosh. And I made this money helping people. Guys, I am telling you, this is where I was hooked. There was no stopping me. I knew the sky's the limit. If a poor, broke kid with bad credit could make that much money doing this, why aren't we all doing it? Right? Why can't we do the same thing for ourselves? Now, back then, I was a green pea. I really didn't know what I was doing. So what were some of the things that helped me get that first deal? The knowledge, right? I got the course. I got the tapes. Even if I had to borrow, I still got it, right? So I got in front of the right information, and then I put it into gear and actually put action steps in there. Then I was faced with all types of adversity and still made the deal happen. So are challenges going to come up? Yes. Does it feel like you're constantly pushing that boulder up a hill every single day? It sure did. There were days where I didn't think we were going to close on it or not. I didn't know. Right. So every single day felt like a challenge. Every single day I feel like I had a fight to get this deal over. But my gosh, when I hit that peak, coming down the other side, getting that check, showing my friends and family that I can do it, proving to myself, which was the biggest thing, that we can do this, that I can do it. My gosh, the way down was fantastic. Such an amazing ride, full of emotions, full of some money, full of help, full of love, right? So this is what got me hooked into real estate, where I knew I have a future. And if I wasn't hanging out at my friend's house that day, I don't know where I'd be right now. If I wasn't putting into action the things that I learned, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. But it surely would not be this. So if I'm giving advice to anybody listening, and you're at that point of your life where you're just sick and tired of the same old and you need to do something, guys, I maybe had $300 to my name back then and got that check. Right. And since then, I've been able to do tons and tons and dozens and dozens and dozens more of these deals, tons of them. Right. And some of these checks are smaller than that. Some are way bigger than that. Right. But so the consistency is key. So are things tough? Yeah, business is tough. This isn't easy. But is it worth it? Every time. Every single time. I've worked for people, and there's a lot of great things that you learn from working for a company. But in my eyes, there was nothing better than working hard for myself and for my family, my wife and my kids. And to me, that is a dream come true. And to me, I'm successful. And this is what I wanted to do, and I'm doing it. So everybody has their own definition of success. There's nobody who's more successful than somebody else. And this is a wonderful thing. So if you want this kind of success in your life, guys, just take that first step. Get the knowledge. Take that second step. Put it into action. Do what it says. Take that third step. Don't give up. Don't quit on yourself. Take the fourth step. Don't listen to the negative people. Know that you're helping people and it's okay to make money and keep going. And if you don't stop, my theory with real estate is the only way you're going to lose is if you quit. So even fast forward 24 years later, the checks are bigger, the deals are bigger, everything's doing very well. But you got to remember where you started from. And that's just taking that very first step. Small series of wins could turn in some big things. So thank you so much for tuning in today. This is how I got started, guys. Now it's YouTube. Everything's out there. And it has never been easier to do these deals. Never been easier to find these sellers who just need some help, right? Never been easier to track down a great attorney or title company who could help you with the closing. Never been easier to find renters or cash buyers. Any of these things, guys, it's never been easier than right now. So there's no excuses. So don't give yourself one. If you really want to do that and you really want that change, it all starts with that very first step. So thank you so much for tuning in. Creative Finance Playbook. If you want to get our script, the same questions that are the 10 magic questions that we ask every seller, go to creativefinanceplaybook.com, our free lead magnet, which gets us tons of off-market properties from free by using these social media and these Facebook groups. It's all on there, guys. Go download our script. Go download what we call the blue post, is the same post that we're putting in these Facebook groups. And now sellers are reaching out to us wanting to sell their property. No more door knocking. Don't need it. Don't have to call it. Just put those posts out there and people will reach out to you. So thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming your way, guys.